Welcome to the friendliest campus in the South.
Shotgun, Blanchard, one back set, rolls right, pressure coming, throws, Middleton, go!
To the gym of the hills.
He lifts it to left. That one's pretty well hit. Hall on the run. That ball is gone.
Home of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
Gets it over the day, over the Hall. He fires up at the buzzer and drains the three. So good defense by Cunningham. Gregory releases away. Pulls up. He checks.
This is your podcast for JSU Sports.
High fly ball. Center field. It is back. It's out of here.
With your hosts, Brandon Owens and Cody Hooks. This is Cocky Nation.
What is going on, FCS Fan Nations and all of our Gamecock fans, to another episode of Cocky Nation Podcast. It is your host, Cody and Brandon, for another episode of All Things Cocky. We have a lot to talk about, a couple things to talk about overall with athletics, and then as well as football and basketball, because we are getting to the nit and gritty with our football season, and then we are just diving into our basketball season. But Brandon, as always, let's go ahead and get started with volleyball. What you got for us?
So our volleyball team this past weekend got 2 wins. They completely swept UNA 3 sets to 0, and they then on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, they beat Austin P 3 sets to 1. So we won our last 2 games of the season, won our last 2 conference games. We finished the regular season 24-5 with a conference record of 12-4. We secured the number 3 seed in the ASUN Volleyball Tournament, and that gave us a matchup against the Dirty Birds from Kennesaw State. And that game will take place November 17th at 1 p.m. and you can catch the game on ESPN+. Please tune in. This team is very special. They have a chance to go to the ASUN Championship and have the opportunity to play for the automatic qualifying bid for the NCAA tournament. So please tune in and support our Lady Gamecocks.
I definitely agree. Way to go, Lady Gamecocks. We're proud of you. Keep doing the hard work. And as you can see, those things really do just kind of pay off. So we are in full support of you guys and hope for the best. So now let's go ahead and let's just turn our gears to our 2 major focal points. The first one, as like I said, we are diving even more into the basketball season. We just got started. We talked a little bit last week about some of our first 2 games, and now we are diving into, unfortunately, our first loss. If you were not paying attention last night, JSU played. We did not play at home. We played
in Chicago.
And unfortunately, we did end up losing that game 67-60. But I will go ahead and say, overall, I'm not upset.
There are things that I had issues with, but overall, it was a very good showing. It showed that our team was very determined, very they will fight to stay in the game, which with our upcoming games, I'm very excited to see that, but we will jump into that in a little bit.
Definitely agree, Brandon. I mean, overall, like I said, I wasn't upset. I did catch a good majority of the game. And so I will say, like, overall, I'm not unsatisfied. Yes, it did point out a lot of those things that we really need to start focusing on. But let's face it, you don't know what you need to fix until you lose. I mean, it just kind of happens. I mean, when we had our first loss against Tulane in football, we really didn't have an idea what we needed to start looking at until afterwards. I mean,
you mean Tulsa?
Was it Tulsa? Oh,
it was God. Tulsa.
I get them always mixed up. Y'all, this is why Brandon's here. He's here to keep me in check. So when we lost to Tulsa, it did show us a lot of what we needed to adjust and what we needed to fix. A lot of those things we tried to apply, some of those things we didn't apply, and that's neither here nor there. We're not talking about football right now. We're talking about basketball. And so overall, several of the players did really good as far as point wise. Potter got 12. I'm gonna butcher his name too. Nugamezi. Is it Nugamezi?
Ingamezi. Yeah.
So it's okay. Ingamezi. Okay, Ingamezi had 11 points. McDowell got 10 points. But again, just there were some technical errors that we ran into that I noticed. Defensively, we could have covered a little bit more, played harder on defense. We could have taken some better shots.
Ball handling. Jesus. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Brandon.
Make better passes. Take better shots. We had way too many contested shots, contested threes, contested layups, contested jumpers. Too many contested shots. If you don't have a clean shot, don't take it.
So like Brandon said, yes, I completely agree. We were 19 for 50, not a 55 for field goals, 7 for 25, 3-pointers, free throws. We weren't too bad.
Reading Illinois, Chicago.
Am I reading Illinois, Chicago? I'm reading it the wrong direction. Listen, I'm tired, y'all.
This is why I'm here.
Exactly. So let me restart. So Chicago had 19 for 55, 7 for 25 on 3-pointers, which, that kind of, made some, if you look at those numbers, that's kind of rough. But
better than ours.
Yes. I was about to say JSU only made 4 for 20. And that was, I would argue, to say the least, that we are not a 3-pointer team. Like, we just
not this year.
I don't think I'd argue that we never have been. I think there was only
we have been in the past.
I think there was one season, and to my recollection. What season are you thinking of?
Last year.
Yeah. But free throws, we did pretty solid, 8 for 10. But then overall, just a lot of technical errors, and that's ultimately what I saw. I swear I'm dyslexic sometimes because I just look at the material wrong when I read these stats. I'm so sorry, people. But again, I'm not dissatisfied, but I'm glad that it happened, because again, we need to be able to look at these technical errors and look at the fact that we need to handle the ball a lot better. Passing, we need to get better. Shots need to get better. But again, it is early on. It's still early in the season, and I think that we can recover from this.
But this is a team, especially when you look at the stats, this is a team that we should have beat. We were favored by 3 points. Our field goal percentage was better than Illinois, Chicago. Our free throw percentage was better than Illinois, Chicago. Now, granted, we fouled them way more. So they had 22 points off of free throws when we only had 8. We had 26 fouls. They had 16. We had 19 turnovers. They had 17. We did out rebound them, though. I think that is going to be a very big strong suit for JSU this year. Is we are a big rebounding team. We're going to be able to get more than one opportunity to get some points. So yeah, we've got to fix the fouls. We've got to play more disciplined. We've got to be careful about turning the ball over, especially with who we're playing next.
I was about to get into that.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm not dissatisfied. I thought we played decent, but we didn't play to full potential.
Right.
Again, it's still early. Early.
But the fact that their largest lead was only 10 points and we were able to hang around the entire game, like, I'm not mad, but at the same time, like, there's things that we do need to work on. Only lost by 7 points, and we just had a really bad night. If a 7-point loss is a really bad night for us against a mid-major team, then I think we're in pretty good shape when it gets into especially against a team from a conference that is much better than the ASUN in basketball. I think once it gets to ASUN play, I think we should be okay.
Yeah, and again, hopefully they are taking what happened last night and are going to apply it, because if you're not been paying attention to the JSU basketball schedule, you know that on Friday night is actually a very big night. So JSU will be traveling on Friday evening to play at Alabama. Yes, the University
Third
of
time in a
Alabama.
row, they should be coming to Jacksonville.
They're never going to do that. But they do play Alabama at Alabama in Tuscaloosa on the SEC network at 7 p.m. I don't want to say that we're going to lose this game, but we're probably going to lose this game.
Mm-hmm.
But
especially if we
again,
play like we did Monday night.
but again, it's it's the perspective that you take on things. I think that this is an opportunity for us to not necessarily try new things, but to solidify what we've been working on. Because if we can hold our own against an SEC team, especially an SEC team that's been prominently getting better over the last several years, especially making it to the big dance, then I think that we will be fine, especially going into ASUN conference games and any other in our division overall. So I think it's going to be a good game. Yes, Alabama's probably going to win it, but hey, you never know. You just don't know. Alabama could just be completely off their game.
Well, I will also say before we even because we're going to do predictions at the end for all of these basketball games that we're about to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Going on the Alabama game, if you compare last season to how these two games is setting up for this game, it's very comparable. Like we went into the game 5-5, didn't necessarily play the greatest against certain teams that we probably should have beat. So I mean, I think this is going to be a lot like last year. I hope so. So I think we're in good shape going into this game against Alabama, but we shall see.
And then as far as the rest of the schedule for the next several games that are coming up, after Alabama on Friday night, the next time we do play is on November 22nd, which is next Tuesday. So so technically a week from now, but depending on when this gets posted, which I assume it will probably be tomorrow or Thursday, then it'll be sometime next week. During Thanksgiving, it will be versus Elon, and if I'm remembering correctly, it should be at home. It is an at-home game. So if you are not traveling to go home during Thanksgiving break, I highly recommend to go support the Gamecocks at home in Pete Matthews Coliseum. And then again, that game's going to be on ESPN Plus. From there, we have the Lobo Classic, which is
over Thanksgiving.
Which is again over Thanksgiving, November 25th. We're going to play UNM at 6 p.m. on November 26th. We're going to play Northern Colorado at 8:30, and on November 27th, we're going to play NDSU. We are going to play the Bisons at 4 p.m.
I am most excited about that game.
I am definitely in agreement with that. All these games are going to be located on ESPN Plus. So if you do not currently, I sound like an advertisement. If you're not currently subscribing to ESPN Plus, you can go online and subscribe to ESPN Plus. And if you do,
it's worth the money.
Yeah. And if you do, give me your login, because I don't pay for ESPN Plus.
What you trying to do, Cody?
Nothing.
That seemed like a ruse for me to give you my login.
Anyways, so so just like Brendan and I just talked about, I think like the most exciting game for me,
Besides Alabama.
yeah, besides Alabama, would be North Dakota State, and I think that's ultimately because I mean the last time we had a chance to play North Dakota State was when we played them in football, and we all know how that went.
Got our butts handed to us.
We did get our butts handed to us, but I think this could be quote unquote a redemption time. But I mean, it depends on how you look at it because I mean, obviously it's not the same, but at the same time, it still feels bitterly sweet. And I think that
I'm
JSU
hoping I have bragging rights over Podfather,
that'd be great.
which is the big boss man, Matthew Frazee, of this wonderful network that our podcast is a part of.
Yes, we love you, Matthew. We love you. Like, don't cancel us yet.
He might if we beat him.
God, who is it on look at me throwing shade right now. Who's the one guy on FCS Fan Nation that's the JSU fan that constantly gets us in trouble?
There's many.
There is many. I mean,
There's
to be
many.
fair,
We do not claim them.
yeah, to be fair, I mean that's going to happen with any team. NDSU fans, you know who you are. Eastern Washington fans, you know who you are. Former James Madison fans,
that's my
you know
new
who you are.
team. Don't talk bad about my new team.
Anyways, so I also think that Northern Colorado is going to be a really good game. That's also because I just kind of have like a secret love for Northern Colorado. Don't ask me why. Long story short, I had a friend of mine that went and played over there for a little while. And so I don't know.
Well, they're also really good in basketball in the Big Sky Conference. They usually are in the top half of that conference. So, I mean, the Lobo Classic overall is going to be a very good test for us because we're playing. New Mexico. It's a hit or miss with them, but like Northern Colorado and NDSU, those are going to be really good tests for us.
Mm-hmm. And again, the biggest things that I want to see takeaway wise is just I want to see us start solidifying the plan that we have in action, which I know our head coach is trying new things every year.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I want to see us have a plan, implement the plan, execute the plan, and the plan work. And if not, throw it out, try something new if we have to. So that's ultimately what I would say. Prediction wise, I'm bad with scores when it comes to basketball. I'm better with it when it comes to football. So I'll just give you who I think is going to win, who's going to lose. Alabama, we're going to lose that. Elon, we should win that. New Mexico, easy dub. Northern Colorado,
that could be a good game.
that could be a really good game. I think I'm gonna have to. And listen, I'm usually the optimist here. I'm gonna give it to I'm not gonna give it to JSU. I'm gonna give it to Northern Colorado. But NDSU, go Gamecocks! Beat the Bison.
For Alabama, it really just depends on if the team from the shorter game shows up and is just completely clicking on all cylinders, or is it going to be the team that played against Illinois Chicago that's making stupid and mental mistakes? But I think we will play better. Yes, Cody.
I would just like to say that Brandon's only saying this because he, quote, no longer claims Alabama as one of his teams because JSU's moving up to the FBS. That's the only reason why he's saying this. But continue.
But with how Alabama basketball is and like what conference they're in and how dominant they've looked so far, I have to pick Alabama in that game. As for Elon, we beat them last year. We shouldn't have any issues, especially with it being at home. It doesn't matter how big the crowd is. We're playing at home. We should be able to beat Elon at home. For the Lobo Classic against New Mexico State, I'm going to, not New Mexico State, New Mexico. I'm picking JSU. Northern Colorado, I'm actually picking JSU against Northern Colorado. And then NDSU, I will, in basketball at least. Football is a different story, but in basketball, I will never pick the Bison. So Cox by 90.
Wow. It should definitely be interesting. And so, with that being said, I think we've covered everything with basketball. And so, unfortunately, this is the second to last time that we're going to be able. I mean, we're still going to mention things with football because obviously, as the season ends, news and information, coach change,
We
things
still
like
have
that.
one game that needs to be announced
I know.
to complete our 2023 schedule.
So it's not completely over, but as far as like playing games wise, like yes, we are getting to the end of our season. And unfortunately, as most of you JSU fans know, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that this Saturday is the last game. Let's just take a moment of silence for the 2022 JSU Gamecocks, especially Zion, because we know that this is his last season. So 1 second silence. Over. Okay, so last weekend, so this past weekend was a very, very interesting game for several reasons, and I'll tell you, and I don't mean like interesting, like some
In a bad way.
yeah. So JSU took on Eastern Kentucky and at JSU. It was, per all of my friends, freezing cold.
Oh
I
my
was
God. It wasn't as bad as Frisco, but it was close.
Yeah.
It was so cold.
I was not there, unfortunately. I wanted to be there because it was also Southerners reunion, and I really wish I could have been able to be there. I was hoping to get out by the time I was done with my tournament thing that I was at, but unfortunately, I was unable to actually make it. But I did catch a lot of the highlights of the game. Several of my friends kept me updated. Brandon kept me updated just a little bit. And JSU ended up pulling out the win, pulling out the dub 42-17.
A
And I'm
very
actually,
dominant win.
it was a very dominant win, which I was very excited to see because, arguably speaking, I don't think JSU has had a very dominant win over Eastern Kentucky in the last like couple years. So that keeps us as number one in the ASUN. It's almost like JSU's got something to prove because of the fact that we can't compete for the ASUN championship. But hey, it is what it is.
Oh, I got tea, but if I say it on in this recording, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers. Pun intended. Pun intended. So I'll tell you afterwards.
Sounds good.
You'll like the news.
Yeah. So overall, JSU was again very dominant win. We had about almost 15,900 people there. A lot of Southerners came back. A lot
A
of
majority
alumni.
of that is Southerners alumni.
Yeah. A lot of alumni in general came back for the game. We had a lot of great moments. The Sudler Trophy was shown off to everyone, which, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like the Heisman for
Marching
bands, and it's great. But again, I'm very happy. Okay, I am. I'm very happy with this game. It was a very dominant win. Zion completed 10 out of the 16 passes that he threw. One person that really just kind of surprised me in this game, and I don't know if there was a specific reason why he had more time in this game than he has in the last previous games. But Wiggins had 139 yards. That's a lot more than he has played in the last several games.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if that's because they know like it's the sign of the times and that he is probably going to end up having to take more of a dominant role next season.
Well, LaRoche is a senior, so we're losing him after this season.
That's true. And he only had 82 yards. Zion had more than he did with 104 yards as far as rushing yards is concerned. We had we did have more rushing yards than we did receiving yards. With
Let's just talk about that for a moment. Can we talk about how hard it is for any team to rush for almost 350 yards in one game? Like, oh my gosh, the rushing yardage JSU had in this game. Eastern Kentucky could not stop any rushing attacks, any run plays, any scramble plays. Like, they could not stop the run. But on the flip side, we could not stop the pass.
Yeah. And see, and again, the issue that I have right now, and I hope that we kind of change this up, is the fact that we are not a passing team. We're more of a running team right now, which is okay to an extent, but at the same time, I've made this argument before. Football is transitioning into a passing game. Who are your highest paid players in the NFL? It's usually predominantly your wide receivers and the quarterbacks that are throwing that ball. Now, you do have a handful of running backs that are prominently showing out, and running backs are not null and void, but I would say, like, comparatively speaking, our passing game is significantly smaller. And so I just hope that
But
maybe it's just the year. Maybe we change it next year. Like, I know I was talking to a friend of mine when I mentioned that Coach Rod was coming to coach for JSU. He had talked to me about it because he knew a lot about him when he was at West Virginia and when he was in Louisiana. And so he did say, yeah, he is a running coach. Like, he likes the running game. And that is fine. Like, I'm all fine with that. But I just want to see more of a passing game.
But, well, okay, so it's not like Rich Rod completely ignores the pass. So we have passed for at least between 100 and 150 yards each game. So Rich Rod understands that the pass is important as much as running the ball. But what happens when you run the ball? More time comes off the clock. So he is very much using that to his advantage. But also, let's take a look at a few other teams that have been very run dominant. Let's look at NDSU's of the past. Let's look at James Madison's over the past of the past. Even South Dakota State. They are in the past, they have been run first. The only one that I would say isn't from time to time is South Dakota State, but definitely James Madison and North Dakota State, they have been run first. And they always have more rushing yards than passing yards. But their passing yards are still up pretty high, like above 100 yards per game. So the fact that we have that kind of setup, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being a run first offense as long as we can still get the ball down the field on certain passes. And we have gotten away from the short pass attack that Gross had. When we pass, we are trying to get the ball more down the field.
Right.
If we do short passes, most of the time it's I guess turn routes. I don't know. It's basically when you run short and then you basically turn around. I guess that's the right term for it. Or we do a lot of screen passes. So it's not like we completely ignore the short pass because a lot of our big gains have been off of short passes. We're just paying more attention to stuff that's happening down the field as far as receivers being open. Right. So we are run first, but we still have a good pass attack for the most part. It's not our first priority.
Right. And again, like, overall, and I guess, like, I constantly, like, rant about it. And again, I'm in the same place as you where I'm saying, like, yes, the run game is great because sometimes it is vital. I mean, the high school that I work at, they are very run heavy. They are not very passing heavy. And so, you are going to have that system that works. I just want to make sure, and the same thing that you just said, that on certain plays, on third downs, when it's 3rd and 10, or if it's 3rd and 15 because we got a penalty, that we make sure that we are utilizing that passing game. And it's not let's attempt to make the pass. It's hey, this pass is going to work. So that's ultimately where I'm at. But here's the more important question, because nobody gave me an update on this. Eastern Kentucky didn't do anything to the band, right?
No, thank God.
Partly, I think, is because the Southerners reunion show was post game, not in the middle of halftime.
Maybe.
So that probably contributed to it. But if any Eastern Kentucky fans are listening, yes, we're calling your team out, because this has happened on more than one occasion, and I bear witness to this on more than one occasion. So
I have twice.
come at me. But
You
overall,
have twice.
exactly. So overall, I'm not dissatisfied. Really good win, JSU. Very happy that we were able to pull off this win. But now it is, again, the season is not over. We still have one more game.
Well,
And go ahead.
before we move on to this week's game, a little bit more on what we were talking about our passing game. Look at our completion rate versus attempts. 10 out of 16. So we had 16 attempts and 10 of them were complete. And we got 150 yards on 10 completions, averaging 9.7 yards per catch. That is a fantastic stat for how little we passed. So just imagine if we decide to go with the pass game for one game. Imagine how many passing yards we can get with that kind of ratio.
All right.
Like, so we have a good pass game, but like I said, we're run first. So anyways, let's move on.
So unfortunately, yes, JSU season will end next week. How
Sad.
it will end, they will be the determining factor. But it is, arguably speaking, a very important game because JSU is going to be facing Central Arkansas in Arkansas at First Security Field at SC Stadium. And
Look at you go.
What? I did my research.
I was just impressed. I wasn't expecting that. Look at you go. Will would be proud.
I was about to say, if Will would be proud. We do end up playing them again Saturday at 4:00, and they are second in the ASUN. Now, arguably speaking, even if we lose this game, we'll still be first. There's no changing that. We have a better record than they do. But the fact of the matter is that this is the defining moment. I mean, JSU, arguably speaking, and agree or disagree, Brandon, starting this entire season, we started the season with some breaking news after that very first game in Montgomery, and that news was what?
That we would not be eligible for the ASUN title.
I really think this entire season was just a giant middle finger to the ASUN conference and all the people that make those decisions, because JSU has proven again and again this entire season. Now, yes, we've had some rough edges, here and there. But then again, one of those games was Tulsa, and the other game was
Southeastern Louisiana.
Thank you. And they're not terrible. And so
no, they're most likely going to win the Southland Conference and be in the playoffs.
Exactly. And so, but again, JSU has played this entire season in the ASUN division just with a giant middle finger the entire time of just saying, if you wanted to take this away from us, that's fine. But no one else is going to claim this title. Because we know who truly deserves this title. But what do we know? We're JSU. And so it's going to be a very good game. Again, biggest things that I want to see is more of that passing game, strong defense, and then I want to see Zion give it his all. I want to see the completions be really good. I want to see the when he gets pushed out of the pocket, I want to see him run that ball. I just want to see the Gamecocks play like they've never played before. And if anything, I want this to be a blowout game. That's what I want to see. Like, I really want JSU to take it to the house.
Well, that could be a possibility because let's look at the other two teams that even stood a chance at possibly winning the ASUN, Austin P and EKU. If we beat Central Arkansas, UCA, Austin P, and EKU will be in a three-way tie for who the ASUN is actually going to crown champion. And so all three teams will be co-champions, with all of them beating each other. I'm not going to get into that.
It could have just been as simple as just letting things go.
And then you look at how we beat Austin P and how we beat Eastern Kentucky. They were they were bad losses for Austin P and EKU. I want to say that the same thing is going to happen to Central Arkansas, but I know that's not going to be the case. Do I think we're going to win? Absolutely. I think we're going to win. But I think it's tough. It's always tough to play it at Stadium on the stripes. And it's also going to be really, really cold because it's a 4:00 game and it starts getting dark around 4:00, 4:30. And so the temperature, I think, is only supposed to get up into 44.
Arkansas had like the
Had
University
snow this weekend.
of Arkansas had snow this past weekend. So, and I hate to say it,
We have a history of not playing well in the cold or in the snow.
Yeah.
So even though I think we will win, I think we're going to struggle a little bit, and the game is going to be a lot closer than what JSU fans want it to be. But then again, who knows? It could go the opposite way. JSU could completely run away with the game. But I think either way, JSU is going to get the job done and finish 9-2.
I really do believe that as well. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it is almost 11:30.
That's also
It
true.
is way past our bedtime.
It's something. So I do also want to add to it that I've just looked up what the weather's going to be supposed to be. 46 degrees. The low is supposed to be 22.
So it's going to be in the 30s, like lower 40s, maybe upper 30s when it kicks off. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
By the end of the game, we're going to look like a bunch of frozen chicken fingers. So,
just like we were this past weekend?
Jesus, like literally everybody kept telling
And
me.
we blew Eastern Kentucky out.
Everyone that I talked to on Saturday was just like, it's freezing. Like, they're like, I can't feel my fingers. I can't feel my toes.
The wind was blowing bad.
And
it was so bad.
I had one friend that stopped texting me because they were like, I can't respond. My fingers are going numb. And I said, okay, well then stop responding and warm up. And so they were trying to. And so I don't miss those days. I'm not even gonna lie.
All the alumni went out at halftime for the Sudler presentation because we played Salvation and then we played the fight song 2 times through. There were a lot of alumni that did not go on the field at postgame. I would say about a third of the alumni that was out there for halftime was out there at postgame. The rest of us were trying to warm everything up before we went back to our cars.
For sure. But I am gonna again. I think we're both in agreement. JSU's gonna pull out the win on this game, and I think it's gonna be a really good final prediction. I think I'm going to pull JSU by 20. I think we're going to get the job done.
I am going to go with a 6-point victory. I'm going to say JSU JSU 40, Central Arkansas 34.
Well, guys, it's been fun. But again, by the time that you guys listen to this, it's going to be a different time. But it's 11:22 right now, and I'm tired.
I am very
and,
tired.
and Brandon is also very tired because we have adult jobs now. So we want to thank each and every one of you for listening. And of course, if you're not already following us on all of our social media platforms, you're not doing the right thing. You're doing the wrong thing. You need to be better with your life. So you need to follow us on Twitter, Cocky_Nation. On Facebook, it's Cocky Nation, a JSU podcast. And the same thing on Instagram, it's Cocky_Nation. And of course, as we always say every week, we are so thankful for the FCS Fan Nations for what they do to support us and all of the other FCS podcasts that occur on this channel. Again, thank you, Matthew. We love you, Matthew. Please don't cancel us yet, Matthew. And Brandon's holding up a heart if you cannot see, if you're not watching this on the YouTube. So again, guys, thanks for listening. We love you. Go Gamecocks, and fear the beak.